Selamat pagi, selamat sore. My name is Nicholas Su. I'm excited to be part of the Humans of Telecom podcast today.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. For those tuning in for the first time, this podcast takes you behind the scenes of the fast paced world of telecom and showcases the human side of some of the most well known individuals within the space. And today, we feature one such individual who is so well known, being a visionary and an inspiring leader within our telecom space. I've had the privilege of working with him in the past at Tata Communications, only to realize this man was meant for much greater things in his career. You'll learn a lot more once we jump into a conversation. So please join me in welcoming Nicholas Su, ex Senior Vice President at TELIN. Nick, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Thank you so much, Anurag, for the introduction. It is my honor to be on this podcast. Yeah, I know we've been talking for quite a while. I guess finally we made it here on the podcast here today. I'm from Malaysia originally, and now I'm really based in Indonesia, Jakarta. I've been here for the past 6 years right now. I'm enjoying every single minute out here in this country here. It's lovely people, lovely colleagues. Couldn't ask for more.
Oh, so there is Malaysia and there is Indonesia now. So, how is it from a cultural perspective? I know while these countries are near each other, and I'm hoping there's a certain overlap in the culture, but how has your experience been? And has there been any other country also which has been a significant part of your journey till now?
Well, speaking of culture, Malaysia and Indonesia are pretty much the same, but at the same time, there are its differences out there. Culturally, we share a same or similar language out there. So clearly, I understand and I speak the Indonesian language. Kind of helps kind of a fair bit, living health in Indonesia. I've been away from Malaysia for the past, I guess, 12, 13, 14 years right now. I've been living in Hong Kong and Singapore for some time out there. So I guess my final point here is ended up in Indonesia. And I am quite confident that this is going to be my home in years to come.
Wonderful. And we know till now, till recently, you've been kicking ass at Telin and doing such fantastic stuff. So, what's on the cards? While I know that there might not be too much that you can spill the beans on right now, but what is on the cards for Nicholas Su in the coming months, and what can we expect to hear about?
Well, technically, I am unemployed today. Uh, Not a good place to start. But yes, I am in between role today. I left Talent, I resigned, and I left Talent, and I do have something planned up. Obviously, I'll be joining another operator carrier
Hmm.
based in Indonesia. Still, as I said, this is my home.
Right.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for a new part of my journey. I'm excited to what things will bring me for the next couple of years in this new company I'm joining.
Wonderful, Nick. And we are all excited to see new things coming up in the horizon with the operator carrier that you joined. So I'll just say to the viewers and the listeners that keep watching this space. This man always keeps rocking wherever he heads off to. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more interesting things coming up very soon. And all the very best, Nick.
Thank you.
So, Nick, moving on, understanding a bit more about your career. So, while I understand you mentioned about Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and now Indonesia, how did you enter into the world of telecoms? Was it something planned, or like many of us, did you stumble into it? What's your career journey been like? And would love to hear some interesting stories about it too.
It's it's an interesting story indeed. I was with Xerox for quite a number of years in the beginning of my career, and I went off to the UK and I did my master's degree there. And I was, working on a part-time basis with Xerox while I'm there in UK. And upon graduation, I came back, and Xerox was gracious enough, and they said, "Well, come and join me." And I resumed my role, extended role in Xerox. On the first day when I came back and joined a company, I got a call from a recruiter. Right, he said, "Well, listen, Nicholas, I've got this job here, this telecom job. This company called Global One. You know, come for interview." And I said, "Well, I know nothing about telecom. I'm in the IT space, right? So I don't know nothing about telecom. Besides, I just joined this new company. I just came back and resumed my role in this company. And well, just go for the interview. What does it have to lose? And I did. Right, I went there. I met up with this fine gentleman. We spent an hour talking about things I have no idea what he's talking about. He asked me what I want. I sort of threw in some silly numbers to him, and I went back home. And 2 days later, he came back and said, "Well, you're hired. I want you. Join us." And he gave me an offer that I can't really say no. Uh, and it was a hard decision, right? I mean, going back to my employer and say, "Well, I know, and I just came back, 2 days, 3 days, upon joining you, I have to leave right now," and which ended up I did. Um, at that point, I don't think I made much friends there in the company, my employer. But through the years, we kept in touch, and it's all fine today. But that's how I got into the telecom world, right? I mean, you know, I guess you can call it stumble upon it. It wasn't by design or by choice or by, well, it's by choice. It wasn't by design that I ended up in telecom. So Global One is a company between French Telecom, Deutsche Telecom, and US Sprint. So it's a company that was based in Malaysia. They are looking for someone to manage the Malaysia, Indonesia business out there, and I joined them. Obviously, uh, very steep learning curve. I have no idea what X.25 is at the time. Frame relay, subsequently an IP. So it's hell of a journey since then.
Amazing. And how did you get into the CPaaS world where you're working in now?
Well, CPaaS comes in a lot later, right? CPaaS comes in when I was in TELIN, being in TELIN for the last 6 years, and we started noticing a trend out there. Started
Hmm.
noticing back in the days. No, I take it back. I'm sorry, I take it back. When I was in Citic Telecom, that's where
Hmm.
CPaaS actually came along, right? That's where the CPaaS companies at the time was Nexmo and whatnot were out there in the market. And we started noticing what they do. We started noticing them coming into the Asia region. And we started dabbling into the whole A2P world out there and
Right.
understanding what exactly is to offer to the enterprises and the OTTs. And that's where I started learning more and talking to the right people, learning about the business.
Right, right. And I was actually a little worried when you said that your CPaaS journey started in Telin because I remember my friend, you played a crucial role in Tata Communications CPaaS journey as well. So please don't discount all your previous companies. You've been in this space for a lot longer than you can remember.
Well, that's the problem as you grow older. You kind of misplace all your dates and time in timeline. So, yeah, thanks for reminding.
Awesome. And Nick, I'm sure that your journey has been an inspiring one. If our listeners want to hear about one or two very memorable or some of the most impactful moments in your career, what would they be?
I would, I would say I would say back in 2010, 2011, when I actually made a big decision to move to Hong Kong. Prior to that, I've always been based in Malaysia, managing the region, managing the business, globally out there. But I guess, in 2011, when City Telecom knocked on my door, it was an offer that I wanted to expose myself globally, and part of the requirement is to pack my bags and move to Hong Kong, which I did. And it is proven to me that it's one of the best decisions I made out there. Kind of, from personal career perspective, really exposes myself internationally, working with people from different culture, as opposed to based in just Malaysia itself. So I was with iBasis for a number of years since then. Before I decided to pull out my luggage, pack it all in, and move out to Hong Kong out there. So it's been quite a journey, uprooting myself and be moving to Hong Kong, and I love Hong Kong and I absolutely, you know, thrilled for the last number of years I was in Hong Kong. There, it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. Something that I would never trade with anything else out there.
Awesome. So I guess once you decided to move abroad and take on a career journey outside of your home country, I think that's been a very impactful one. And I agree. I think for a lot of us, when we move out from our home space and from our comfort zone, I think we really develop as an individual. And I think we've seen the same with you as well.
Absolutely. I guess when I first moved to Hong Kong, I found a place very close to the office, which is a little bit out of the city area. And for that first year when I was there, I completely lose my social personal life. Partially because you have a long day at work and you go home, and by the time you're home, you're tired and you are exhausted. And whenever friends arrive in Hong Kong, they don't live out of town; they live in the city itself. So they would say, "Let's come out for a dinner and drinks." And it's tiring. Thinking of the journey, heading out downtown for drinks and dinner is always a bit of painful decision. So the second year onwards, I decided that no, 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 I need to regain my social life, and I actually moved right downtown. So that was the best decision I've made out there. So whenever anyone arrived in Hong Kong and said, "Well, let's get up for a drink," even at the very last minute, um, I said, "No problem. I'll see you in five." I could just walk there. I could just take a quick cab ride, and I'm there, and that's been awesome out there. So for anyone who's moving to Hong Kong, I would always recommend you stay in an area where you're closer to the city. Friends will always come in, arrive in different time of the day, and that's the best time. That's the best place to be.
Awesome. And have you partied on the streets of Lang Kwai Fong, LKF?
Well, you're asking a questions that you know the answer.
Yeah, I have some great memories of Hong Kong too, and yeah, I remember the streets of Lang Kwai Fong, and it was great time out there.
Yeah, I guess Hong Kong is more than just Lan Kwai Fong out there. I mean,
Of
it's a
course.
very well diverse city out there. You cross to the other side, the Kowloon side, and the life is very different. And the I wouldn't use the word party scene. I would say the scene for the restaurant scene will be very different
Right.
than as in the central Hong Kong side.
Yeah, I guess when you're living versus when you're a visitor, the lives are very different, and the experiences are very different in both those scenarios. And I'm sure that there is so much more that the country has to offer. I agree. All right. Moving on, Nick, to our next section, which we call the human side. So here we like to understand a few more things about you. So I know you're a very interesting person, a truly multifaceted person. So while we see the energy in conferences and meetings, what's behind that energy? What do you do to recharge yourself? What are some of your passions?
Well, I I work out at the gym. Um, it's quite religiously. It's twice a week. I have my trainer coming to the house and kind of whip me out twice a week, and I play tennis over the weekend. And I do Pilates. Can you believe that? I do Pilates with
Okay,
my wife, and she hooked me up there, and I got hooked thereafter. So um, it's highly recommended sort of workout, kind of help you out with your mobility out there. Yeah, and obviously above all, spending time with your family. That's something that yeah, I always treasure, and I always make sure my weekend is totally dedicated for the family, without exception, non-negotiable.
right. And what sort of a role has family played in your career? I know that, you are a very strong family person, and I've seen that in our interactions. How has family played a role in your career so far?
Well, I when I moved to Indonesia, I got married in Singapore, and then subsequently moved to Indonesia. So family is well, my wife's from Indonesia, so that makes the move a lot easier. That makes
Mhm.
the move a lot settled than as opposed to some other place. Support system is there, and the support families are here. At least for my wife's side, is in Indonesia, and obviously everyone is very supportive of me being in Indonesia, and they kind of make my stay here a lot more welcoming. It's a lot more, I guess, the human side of things of of me. I can find myself, I can see myself in this country. And obviously, the wife, the family. I have a daughter, 15 years old, and a boy, 5 year old, and they're pretty much my rock there, right? I mean, I live to see them grow up. Yeah, if we say family plays an extremely important role, in shaping who I am today.
I agree. I totally agree, Nick. Nick, so now we're gonna move on to a slightly even more fun side of our conversation. We're gonna play a couple of games, and here's some here's some interesting conversations. So first and foremost, I'm gonna put up a couple of words to you, and as I tell all my guests that be spontaneous, be original, be human, and say the first thing that comes to your mind. So I'm gonna throw some words at you, and I look forward to what you think about them. Can we go on with it?
Okay, let's go.
You're gonna do great, buddy. You're gonna do great. All right. The first one is telecom.
Transformation. I would say it's transformation. Well, the whole industry is just transforming so fast, and it's just running at warp speed right now. And you just got to keep on going, keep on learning. Otherwise, you'll fall behind. So I would say transformation is the first thing that hit my head there.
Yep, that's so true. Keep transforming, or you'll be left behind. Motivation.
Learning.
Hmm.
I would say learning. It's a journey. You got to keep on learning. That motivates me. Knowing that there's so much more information, so much more knowledge out there that's yet to that I've not known yet, and that kind of drive me to continue learning. And learning from your friends, learning from you, learning from anyone that I engage with. Right? It can be someone more senior than me, someone that I look up to, can be someone that I work with, can be even someone of a new entry or junior person, an executive that they have some knowledge that obviously I don't, and I love to speak to them. I love to learn, and it's kind of drive me to motivate myself that I want to acquire as much information and knowledge as much as possible. Help me with my personal life, help me with my career out there.
Absolutely. The next one, something we just spoke about, family.
Blessed. I think that's the first thing that come to my mind here. I feel extremely blessed to have a family here that's supportive, extremely happy that the family stood by my decisions and everything that I do, and kind of encouraged me along the way. And that's the right word there. Blessed.
Perfect. And the other side of the coin, career.
Uh, I'm not sure it's the right word to use there. I would say legacy. I guess everywhere that I go, every company that I've been to, I certainly want to leave a legacy of what I do. Leave a legacy of the success that you have built upon in that company, and for my career as well. I always tell my team and my colleague that. If you do well, which you will, it's not just the management who will value you, and the whole industry itself will be look out to you and say, "Well, I know this guy. He's done well." So, from career perspective, I would say legacy, and I certainly um, hope that I believe that I've contributed a fair amount to the previous company that I've been, especially in TELIN, that I left them, that I believe I did leave a good legacy within the company, kind of make my mark there in within this company.
I think that's a fabulous thought, Nick. And you're right. There's nothing more wonderful than to be remembered by the legacy you left behind. And for sure, I mean, I know for a fact I can vouch for it personally. I think in all my interactions with you, whether it's the company we work together in or your recent stint, you've left your mark wherever you've been. So that's been amazing. And the last one is podcast.
Oh, that's an easy one. Come on. Humans of Telecom, Anurag. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. With the amount of conversation we have about this podcast, how can I not say that? Which is true. It's not just saying it because I'm here, but it is true. And then I've, uh, I've always been listening to podcasts in different places, in different conversation, different topic. But I guess, first thing that comes to my mind is Anurag, right? I mean, you are the face of the Telecom podcast. So kudos to you. Well done.
Thank you, Nick. And I just hope I can keep living up to this podcast image As long as there are friends like you around, I'm hoping that guests should keep coming in, and listeners should be having a good time. All right, moving on. Now, this is even more interesting. In this section, we talk about three statements from the guest, and the guest has to give two statements which are truths and one which is a lie, and I have to guess which one is a lie. And I've been horrible at it. Only recently I won for the first time, but mostly I've really I've really sucked at it, to be honest. So I'm sure you, with your multifaceted and very diverse personality, you would have some interesting thoughts. So would you have three statements for us today?
I do. All right, let's start off with the first statement. I love hip hop music.
Okay.
And number two, I once ran a full marathon.
Uh-huh.
Number three, surviving a bomb explosion in the hotel I was staying.
Oh my God. Okay, now
Now it's on you.
I'm really hoping the third one is the truth, because we'd love to hear that story. And I'm quite sure the fitness freak that you are, you've run a marathon. So I'm really hoping the lie is that you're not into hip hop music. Am I right?
Well, unfortunately, no. I do love hip hop music. That's my genre when I work out. So I do play my hip hop music when I work out. So
Uh-huh.
that's the truth.
Okay.
You got one more chance. How's that?
I'm still hoping that we can hear about the hotel story. So you've not run a marathon. Is that correct?
That would be correct. I am not a runner. I can't run. I can't run to save my life. So that's the lie.
Awesome. So, Nick, then my next obvious question. So, let's hear a bit more. What was this story about the near escape from a bomb blast?
Uh, well, it was way back when I was in a basis. I was in Pakistan, unfortunately, at a place, very unfortunate place in Marriott at the time when a bomb exploded out there, and I was having lunch with the carrier partners out there, and it just went off, right? And part of the whole the staff entrance wing was completely devastated. It's all gone, and God bless soul of the security. He sort of went away as well. Yeah, that wasn't a good experience. That was a scary moment. Obviously, it's not good. And I tried to find my way out. A flight out of the country. Obviously, all flights are all booked out, and I have to stay in the hotel, trying to figure out what's really happening out there. And the funny part was, in the same evening, another telecom operator called me up and say, "Hey, let's go for dinner." I said, "Hang on a
Oh,
minute,
gosh.
the bomb just went off. This bomb just went off in the afternoon. Are you crazy? I mean, are we sure you're safe?" Don't worry. Lightning don't strikes twice. And we did went for a nice dinner out there, and it was quite an experience out there. And obviously, don't get me wrong, Pakistan is a lovely, lovely place, and we've got lots of wonderful friends out there. But it's
Right.
just very unfortunate that I was at the wrong place, wrong time at the time when it happened. So yeah, I mean, I did. Survive. I mean, survive is a big word out there. Obviously, yeah, it's rough.
I can imagine. And yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful country. I had the fortune of visiting the country as well about 15 years ago. And yes, I can imagine it must have been a very shocking incident for you and for people back at home who must have known about it. But I can say, in your true spirit, you managed to step out and have a good dinner. That's so like Nick. But it's a very interesting story, I must say.
Well, it is fun. Well, not in the fun in the sense, but it's sort of sad that obviously the security at the hotel passes on out there as an event of that. But
Right.
it's a story to tell. It's a story that will always be with me. It's never going to go away.
I can imagine. I mean, I was in Mumbai, and back in 2008, we had the terror attacks here, and I was barely about 100 meters from where the attacks took place. So I mean, I know that incident, and that's something which never leaves my mind. So I can totally relate to where you're coming from. All right, Nick, the last question of this section. I'm sure, given the multifaceted personality that you are, you must be into reading or watching movies as well. So, is there a movie of your choice, and is there a character you'd love to play, and why? And is there a book or something which has been of interest to you or inspiring, and what would that be?
Two things come to my mind here. Rocky Balboa.
Uh huh.
I guess I just love the determination, the resilience, and the underdog status of Rocky. Coming in, never giving up, and achieving what he wants to achieve out there. I think that's something of a spirit that I've always hold within me. That keep on driving, keep on going. Don't let a small hiccup or hiccups kind of define you, and that's where I kind of live with that. Um, on the book side, there's a book that I love very much, a book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. I'm not sure if you have a chance to read that book. It's a combination of passion, perseverance for long-term goals. Really, it's knowing what you want and how badly you want it, and kind of drive you to do what you should do or need to do to achieve that goal. So, kind of like link back to how Rocky would be. Um, he knows he want it. He knows he needs to work harder and train harder than everybody else to achieve success.
Awesome. So, people, we have our very own Sylvester Stallone of the telecom world with us today, our Mr. Rocky Balboa.
Well, minus the muscle here in Iraq.
No, my friend, I'm sure given all the Pilates and all the workouts which you're religiously doing, I'm sure you can give Stallone a run for his money.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. But it's interesting, you're right. They are very inspiring movies and the book, and I think that reflects in your actions. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. Awesome. So, Nick, with that, sadly, we are on to a final section, what we call the sign off section. So, two quick questions here. Firstly, if somebody wants to meet you, you're very active in the industry. In the coming months, which are some of the conferences you'd be attending, or what's lined up? Where can one meet Nick?
Well, I can't say for now. I'm still unemployed. Remember,
Right.
uh, so I'm sure time will tell. When I do ended up joining the company, and with the events line, I guess, and I suppose the major events, PTC, ITW, is always on the cards.
Right.
And yeah, I can't say much more for now because I clearly don't know. But that's my suspicious. The common telecom conferences, the larger one, the PTC, ITW, um, events out in London. So yeah,
Right.
I do
Right.
look forward to see friends and colleagues as always. In conferences always.
Perfect, Nick, and we look forward to that too. And with that, final question, signature question. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Uh, I vulnerable. I know it's thought provoking sort of word there. I think being human here, sometimes we put on a facade which I don't recommend. Be yourself, be vulnerable. Be who you are. I guess people who knows you and gets to know you wants to see the vulnerable side of you. Be yourself. Sometimes if you have to um, play a joke on yourself, make fun of yourself, and that's okay. And sometimes we forget that we are in the business world, and sometimes we put on the facade, and I truly recommend we don't do that. For anyone out there listening out there, be yourself. Everyone have a soft spot. Everyone is vulnerable in some way, and be that. People will see who you are, and learn to appreciate you, learn to love you even more. Yeah, so I would say vulnerable. I'm not sure it's the right word to use there, Anurag.
Well, I think it's a fabulous one, Nick, because this is the first time a guest has used this word on this show. And I think that's fabulous. I think if you're able to show your vulnerable side without any pretense, I think that itself is a superpower because as this show goes, it's about being human. And if you're able to show your human side, that just shows that you are at peace with yourself, and you're that much more comfortable projecting your true self to the outer world. So I think that's a fantastic thought. And Nick, lastly, something which I had not planned but would still love to hear your thoughts. As I said, the industry really looks up to you. So, is there any final words you'd like to say, a message or some thoughts for the listeners out here about what they should think about in their journey going ahead? Anything that can inspire us?
Well, it's a very consistent that I've always said this to everyone that I talk to. Uh, be nice to everyone that you talk to. Be nice to everyone that you work with or engage with. Make this world a better place to be. The world is chaotic enough as we speak today. So I think we should all play a little role, a little part in making this world a better place. Um, there are people who are less fortunate out there. Make their life a little better if you can in your own capacity. That way the world will be a better place to be, to live in, at least for our children in years to come out there. And I like the world to see that I'm a trustworthy person, someone who is there when they need me, who's there when they need to help or advisors. I'm always there. Someone that is always there to help those in need or help those who are requiring support or anything else out there. So yeah, the key point here is make this world a better place. Do your little part, however small that is. Be nice. Yeah, I think we live in a very chaotic world today, so we should not make it worse. We should try to make it better for everyone.
Perfect thoughts, Nick. So, on that note, as expected, it was a wonderful conversation. I'm sure our listeners are really going to enjoy listening to this episode. So, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Anurag, for having me. It's been awesome. Wonderful talking to you. Yeah, I look forward to catching up with you in person sometime soon.
Absolutely, Nick. So, thanks a lot. And to all our wonderful listeners here, as always, thank you so much for tuning into this show. I'm sure that this episode gave you a good glimpse into the human side of Nicholas Sue, the truly vulnerable human being that he projected out here. All the places he's lived in, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and now Indonesia is his home. A true Rocky Balboa who has climbed his way all the way up in the career ladder, and he's a source of inspiration for all of us. Nicholas Sue, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful human being on the show today. And if you want to hear more such compelling stories, so do stay tuned in. We shall soon be releasing yet another episode and yet another story of somebody interesting and influential within the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.